Hi, Marcus Ruiz Evans here, reporting from an activist movement protest here in the Central Valley. The Central Valley recently went progressive over the last 10 years, to the dismay of many conservatives. We're now majority progressive, and you're going to see a lot of activities like this over the course. Recently, I covered the protest and make sure that Donald Trump did not steal the election thing. And now we're talking to people, progressive Central Valley people, Californians who believe in climate change. For in their own words, what's going on here today, and what is this about?
So today I am part of a movement called Sunrise, and we are a youth climate activist movement focusing on getting the Green New Deal in motion and making sure that we take action against the climate crisis. Here in Fresno, in the area, it's
Take your time. It's all good.
The climate crisis is prominent. We see it every day. I see it when I turn my phone on, I look at the weather app, and I can see the air index. When I can see when it's red, it's purple, when I know I'm gonna go outside and it's gonna hurt my lungs, and I'm gonna look at the sky and it's gonna be gray. I know that the climate crisis is here when I can't see our own beautiful mountains. We are here today because the climate crisis is important, and we wanna represent it to do something about it. Currently, we are outside Devin Nunes' office to show that we are posting pictures to social media and acting as a whole front at Sunrise to bring forth power and show that we need climate crisis action. And our biggest tool for climate crisis action is the Green New Deal. The Green New Deal is a movement, is a motion focused on ensuring that we can act for the climate crisis and effectively stop it before it's too late and we live in an apocalypse created by ourselves. The Green New Deal is not only an action against the climate crisis, it's also a movement to ensure jobs for everybody and to completely revamp the economy so it works for the climate crisis and it works for us. It is vital that we take these actions and we show our representatives what we want. We want the Green New Deal. We want climate action. We need it. We want to be able to go outside and breathe our air and come back here and look at our beautiful mountains and not see that it's a purple air day on our phone and know that it's going to be a gray day. It's going to be a day where you can't see the mountains.
Would you like to say anything? You don't have to. Okay. Let me ask a couple questions. So when you say the Green New Deal, do you mean the thing by Ocasio-Cortez, or are you talking about in a general sense?
This is the deal proposed by AOC. Sunrise works with AOC a lot, and yeah, that's the Green New Deal we talk of.
Okay. And why protest against Nunes here? What is the symbolism? Was he for climate change, against climate change? What is the symbolism of the message here, and why this specific location? Your words.
Yeah, so we chose Nunes, one, because it's easy to get to his office. It's right here, close to my house. And also just because he's in denial. He hasn't been taking action. He hasn't been helping us with our drought. I've talked to my friends, and they all agreed that they were like, how are you going to get Nunes on our side? We need him to take action, and he's not. He's in denial that we even need to take action, and that's why we're here, because he's the one that needs to hear this. He's the one that needs to help us.
So Nunes has perhaps not been as forthright listening to the climate change message, or has appeared to not be as willing to work on it. What has Nunes done, in your opinion, that suggests he's not supportive of climate change? I'm not arguing. I'm asking you to explain to the public so they get what this is. In your words.
I haven't done enough research. I know some general things, but not enough to answer that question accurately.
Why now? Why is it important to deal with the climate now? Joe Biden was elected. Kamala Harris is elected. It's a Democratic-controlled Senate. Can't we just assume they're going to take care of this all perfectly on their own and go home?
We can't assume anything. It's important that we do make sure our voices are heard, because who knows? Right now it seems prevalent. It seems that things are happening, but maybe in a month it's going to be steamrolled over. Maybe we'll have forgotten that the climate crisis is such a big deal. We have to take action, make sure it's heard that, yes, we want you to keep focusing on the climate action. We want you to do more. It's already we are seeing progress, but we aren't seeing enough progress. We are on a timeline here, a ticking time bomb, where if we don't act now, if we don't keep acting, we're heading to ultimate disaster.
Joe Biden says he cares about the climate crisis. Kamala Harris says she cares. Nancy Pelosi says she cares. The Democratic House just went Democrats. Why can't we just take them at their words and go home and say, hey, they said it's important, they'll handle it just the best, and let's take them at their words? Why not?
We want to make sure, we gotta make sure they keeping that word. We want them to know that we support that, and we want them to keep supporting that. We don't want them to suddenly not hear anything from the people, and even though they might believe in it, they might choose to focus on other things that they're hearing more from the people about. They might hear more cries for jobs, and they'll focus more on that. But if they are hearing cries of climate crisis, they're going to endure, they're going to keep going at it, and they need to be reminded of how much it matters to us.
Donald Trump was obviously antagonistic to climate change and California and our forthright measures to lead the world in climate change, going back 3 governor administrations. But it sounds like you're saying perhaps we can't just automatically trust the Democrats to make sure it gets all done. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I mean, we have to make sure it happens, and there's a lot to do. Already, Biden's been going to rejoin the Paris Climate Agreement, and among other things, but we know that that's just the first step. We have to overcome a lot of what Trump did throughout his presidency to mitigate the response to the climate crisis, and that's a lot to do. And a big fear is that Biden's just not going to do enough. He's going to do a lot, but it's not going to be enough, and we need to ensure that enough happens.
Joe Biden on the campaign trail, and I'm going to ask you what you think about this, said, Donald Trump's a liar. I am for fracking. How dare you say I'm against fracking? I'm Joe Biden and I'm for fracking. He did that the last 5 days of the campaign. Does that instill confidence that he's concerned about climate change, given that fracking is the most polluting, environmentally destructive practice and shows a commitment to long-term fossil fuel committing?
Yeah, that is concerning because it's sudden, and it goes against what he's been saying, and it goes against what we want, and so that's why we're pushing him more here. That's why we're like, remember what you're going for. Remember what we want from you.
Do you think even though he won saying I'm for fracking, the progressives can push him into an even more progressive stance than he even took during the campaign trail? Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's why we're here today. That's why we're pushing. So we push him farther. We push him to what we need.
What if Joe Biden says, I got the votes, I didn't run on this, and like every president before him, doesn't follow through on promises they never made? In fact, every president in American history is only held to promises they made, not promises they didn't make. How can we push Joe Biden into a stance he's never actually taken and campaigned against?
What I'm doing right here today, I'm making sure my voice is heard. I'm making sure that our representatives are making our voices heard. I'm making sure that our voices are heard around the world. Our voices are there, and I think making sure that we let the higher-ups know what we want is super important, because if they don't know what they want and they aren't listening to us, they're not going to do anything to help us. They're going to do stuff that they think is important, or that they find important, or it's important to them, or it's going to help them in the long run. So that's why we're fighting here, because we want to make sure that we push them. We push them to do what we need them to do as for the people, because as the people, their job is to support us, and if we don't like what a president's doing, we have rights to complain. It's important for our representatives to represent us, or we won't vote them again. We won't let them be back in office. And sadly, that's one of the biggest things that occur, is being revoted. And if we don't like them, they're not going to be revoted. And so they are inclined to listen to our demands.
What about the news that Mary Nichols was the person who basically developed all air quality legislation here in California? She was a pivotal force for progressive improvement and any clean air regulations we've had to date. She asked to work for the Biden administration and was turned down. Does that suggest the Biden administration is as committed to clean air as California, given that Mary Nichols was our leader for the last 3 decades and Biden rejected her within 2 days?
I'm not super familiar on this issue, but I don't know if he had other good options, like he could have chosen someone who he saw fit better, and he doesn't know. That's why we're talking to our representatives, to let him know, because our representatives know our situation. They're supposed to be listening to our specific area. Biden can't understand the impact that she has and how much she knows. He can see that, but he has to look at the whole country, and he might have found other candidates who, on paper, looked the same, and so he faces that.
What if every air quality expert in America and Europe said that Mary Nichols is one of the best experts and no one's better qualified than her? Why would you not select that person?
I don't know. I'm not him. I would hope that, there was a good reason.
I also saw in the advertisement for this sunrise, we want to hold Biden accountable to make sure we get those stimulus checks. Is that right?
Yeah, that's another thing.
Recently, Joe Biden announced that although he campaigned on $2,000, he's not going to do that. It's going to be substantially less. Yes, he said that in the last 2 days. And although he campaigned on getting stimulus checks right away, he in fact is not going to do that either. They'll be months out. So given that Joe Biden said, hey, I'm getting you $2,000 checks right away, and moment after he gets elected, he says, not doing it, not doing it. How do we hold him to account to make sure those things happen when he's literally backing away from campaign pledges day one of his presidency?
I don't know. It's hard, but I imagine it must be hard when you are suddenly do have the power and you do have to think about other things like where are you going to get the money and making sure that you are balancing it out so you're achieving the demands without forcing us into a greater problem.
So maybe we don't get the checks because he knows something we can't see and he's trying to figure it all out. Even though he said in Georgia he would guaranteed do that the moment he got elected, and now he's backing down.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So I'm just pointing out,
Yeah.
I believe in holding officials accountable.
Yeah.
But how are we going to hold Joe accountable when he's literally arguing for fracking, creating a climate change liaison who was a Chevron exec, an oil executive, and then immediately backed down on his promise on stimulus checks in two different regards? How do we hold someone like that accountable? He has no problems backing away day one.
Well, what we're doing here, we just want to make sure our voices are heard, and if he does something we don't like, we complain, We gotta if we want something, we gotta ask for it. It's about making sure our voices are heard so that our elected officials achieve our goals.
What if Joe Biden, 6 months from now, gets climate change legislation passed, but it's not as progressive as we here in California want, and he says, look, I had to do this because this is what I could get passed. Half of America doesn't even believe in climate change. So I have to water down the bill to even get something passed. And it's better than what Obama did, and certainly way better than Trump, but nowhere near what Gavin Newsom and the rest of California would want. At what point do we as Californians get to say, you did not listen to us, and you did not represent us, and this is not what we in California would want, and it's not nearly enough? How long do we let him prove himself before we go, sorry, you're not coming through?
Well, we just keep going. We keep going out here. We keep posting things on social media. We make sure our voice is heard. We got to be consistent about that. And, if he puts in a bill that does half the stuff that we want, fantastic. That's half of the stuff. But we're going to keep fighting for all the things that we need.
Okay. Even if it takes 4 years?
Even if it takes 4 years, we just got to keep fighting. We would love for it to happen sooner, but we just got to keep going.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Any answers, questions?
No, I think it's a new administration, and so we can move forward with a new book, new chapter, a new book even. So, like Sophia said here, we're delivering a message that climate is very important to us here in California, and even small steps, as long as they're forward, is in the right direction.
Fair enough. Californians really care about climate change. Our governor went so far as to say we're moving on clean air regulations. We're going forward. And we just got rid of a horrible monster, I get it. But then America elects a guy who says, I'm for fracking, how dare you consider me not for fracking? And we're supposed to trust he cares about climate change? Doesn't that seem at least a little curious?
Sorry, it was really hard to hear.
Oh, sure.
And everything, but
California's really...
Yeah, I don't have enough information on that area to make a statement on that.
I'm just concerned that he's going to say great new day, and then when time comes to deliver, we're going to get half of what we wanted, which is not going to be cool with us and is not going to fix the situation. And then he's going to say, like all presidents, I passed legislation, I did a thing, I'm done for the next 8 years, which means we're now coming back 10 years into the future to actually get the changes needed. Because we said, hey, he's a good guy, he made some change, we're going to lay off. We tried to pressure him, but it wasn't good enough. 10 years from now we'll try again to get to where Californians already know we need to? Are we setting ourselves up?
Well, we're here, and that's why we're gonna keep making sure our voice is heard. Like, no matter what, we're gonna be out here. No matter what, we're gonna be watching him. We need to let Biden know that we're watching what you're doing, and we're laying out our demands, and we're gonna make sure you follow through, because we're gonna be out here sharing our voices.
And if he doesn't come through, it's okay to criticize him. Is that fair?
I would say that's fair, yeah.
Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's important that we communicate what our message is, and obviously it's on us also to stay vigilant on whether there is progress, and if it's going backwards, to say something about that. So, yeah, that's why, we're here and promoting a Green New Deal.
Oh, and I'm a progressive too, but I just believe in holding our officials to account and not just taking what they say. I mean, Biden literally appointed as his climate change liaison an oil executive. What do we think's going to happen here? I mean, is that a good sign?
We got our signs out here because we don't want that to happen. We're not worried about what's going to happen. We've got a new president now, and we've got our signs letting them know what we want, and we're going to watch, and we're going to keep sharing our voices.
I hope it really is change. I would hope that we're not just being sold a new bill of goods, and they're going to go, oh, yeah, I made an inch worth of change. I'm better than Trump. Everybody celebrate me. Because we've seen presidents in America do that. They made a tiny incremental change from the previous administration and were able to get reelected saying, I did something. But it was nowhere near enough. And like you just said, our lives are literally on the line here. We have the worst air quality in all of America here in the Central Valley. Do we really have 8 more years for it to get worse before we do what's necessary?
Well, at least we have a new president that acknowledges global warming, so we are hoping that we are moving in the right direction. And so we are communicating that this is obviously very, very important to us and everybody here in the Valley.
It is. I grew up with asthma. I was told as a child 40 years ago it was God's will that certain children have asthma or not. Science later proved that wrong and said, no, it's if the particulate matters of 2.5 to 10.0 microns per meter are higher. So we have the highest rates of asthma in the world and the worst air quality in the world. And part of what contributed to that was Governor Brown allowed fracking while saying he stood for climate change. That directly increased the air particulate matter here in the valley. So we got to get more bad air, and we have more sick kids. Biden says I'm for fracking, and he hires an oil executive as his climate change guy. Are we going to get done in like we did with Brown, where they say one thing and then the air quality gets worse and more children get sick and die?
Yeah. Well, we can't speak in hypotheticals. I'm sure that you can look at it and you can say it doesn't look good for Biden, but we can also look at it and say we've got a new presidency. It's better. We just got to make sure our voices are heard, and that's what we can do now. We cannot speak in hypotheticals. It doesn't further our arguments about now and what we can do now to make sure our voices are heard.
Fair enough. All right, well, thank you both very much. Appreciate it.